Okay. All right. Let's get started, shall we? Give me one sec. Do you want the music on in the background or no? Press 1 for music. Press 2 for no music. And I'm not taking requests. It's just, it's going to be Animal Crossing if we're going to do it at all. Just give me one sec here. I'm seeing a lot of ones. Okay, so people want the music. Let me get a different tune going because the same one's going to be a little repetitive. What should we do? Let's do... Well, what time is it? It's almost 1 a.m., so why don't we do 1 a.m. hourly music from Animal Crossing Wild World? Because it's 1 a.m. Very minimalist. Can you hear it? Fitting. I like it. It is very 1 a.m. Very 1 a.m. tune. But all right, let's get into it. Can you hear everything? It's a little muted, some of the shaking that goes on. You know, the little like ch-ch-ch sound. Anyway, so we're going to get started. We're reviewing, what's it called? Death of America by Dinesh D'Souza. I just saw it in theaters. And not impressed. Not impressed. I know everybody's been talking about it. I didn't even want to see it. Didn't even want to see it. But I wanted to see it to give a review, just to see, you know, you like to go and see what's going on, what people are hearing from people like Dinesh and from the tastemakers. Same reason I see a lot of the big blockbuster movies. You just want to see what people are thinking, what's going on, what people are consuming. And so I went at 6:30 to see it, and it was all sold out. And I was like, how? How could it be sold out? Who's seeing this movie at 6 o'clock on a Saturday? Dinesh D'Souza. And I said, that can't be right. It simply can't be right. So then I go and I check for the 9:50 showing, I think it was. And I go to buy my ticket for the next screening. And I look, and the auditorium's 30 seats. And I'm like, oh, that's why. That they sold out, they sold 30 tickets. And it was like the only theater in a half-hour radius. I speak in terms of time, you know. That's how we measure. It's the only theater in like a half-hour, 45-minute radius. They sold like 30 tickets. So, okay, yeah, that makes sense then. But so then I had to go kill a few hours. I went to Half Price Books and kind of hung out in the parking lot for a little while. And then I caught it at 9:50, and I just got done seeing it. And it was the most convoluted political movie I've ever seen in my entire life. Just the most convoluted, absurd, ridiculous. And look, we have to analyze it in terms of the intention or like what's the expectation of a movie like this. The goal of this movie is not to entertain, it's not to inform, it's not to educate. The point of a movie like this is to get people to vote. That's it. Because the people that are going to see it already agree with everything that's in the movie. And they've already heard everything in the movie because they either read one of the books or they saw any one of Dinesh D'Souza's previous movies, which all have the same content, which I'll get into that in a moment. So it's not educational. It's not supposed to inform, not to persuade. It's not to entertain. I don't know how anyone could be entertained by that. It was dry as a bone, very bony, dry as a bone. So not for entertainment, but it is for propaganda purposes. It's always in August. The last one was in August in 2016. The one before that, I think, was in 2012. It was like Obama's America. And so it's a get out the vote thing. It's reminding people, oh, it's like slavery. You're getting your head cut off. It's Hitler. So you got to go out and get Republicans in office. And if that's the case, fine. I have no problem with it. Good. Movies like this should be made then, right? I mean, we want people to vote for Republicans. And so if that's the case, does it achieve its goal? Yeah. And so I don't really have a problem with it in that sense. And so what's the expectation? Well, you can't really be let down if it doesn't entertain, if it doesn't inform, if it's not totally like a nuanced political, theoretical tone, because that's not the intention, that's not the purpose. So why would anyone expect that? Now, that said, it's important that we analyze what conservatives think, what conservative tastemakers are saying. And Dinesh D'Souza is a pretty big deal. I mean, the people who showed up to the screening of this movie, it's the president's son, it's Kimberly Guilfoyle, it's Sebastian Gorka. I mean, major players. I'm sure the president's going to see it. I'm sure he's met Dinesh and all the rest. So it's important that we analyze the content and separate the fact from the fiction, separate the propaganda from what's really going on. And so we'll get into the movie here. The first thing I'll say is that if you've seen one Dinesh D'Souza movie, if you've read one Dinesh D'Souza book, you don't need to see or read anything else by him ever again, because it's all the same thing, just recycled. I mean, because I saw the 2016 movie, I saw America, Imagine the World Without Her. Number one, the titles are so convoluted. That movie was not about imagining the world without America. It was not an alternate history. It was just shitting on Hillary Clinton. But in that movie, and I saw it in 2016, the premise was Democrats are the party of slavery. Democrats are the party of Jim Crow. Democrats are the party of Margaret Sanger. Democrats are the party of Hitler. And what was this movie? Democrats are the party of slavery. They're the party of this and that. And I thought to myself, why don't they just use clips from the old movie? They might as well. I mean, do people, maybe all the people that are watching it have like short-term memory loss because they have Alzheimer's or something? Who knows, right? But it's just kind of insulting and offensive to the audience member. I paid $13 for my ticket, and there was no more substance in this film than there was in the previous film. Like, I want my money back. Also, I read the book America when I was in high school. And same shit, you know? Actually, America was a little different, because at least in that one, they did an exposition about the Native American argument that the Howard Zinn types like to make. And I think that was beneficial. No, maybe it was Hillary's America was 2016, and America came before that. I think that was, I think that's what it was. You can't even tell the difference between the movies, because they all bleed together, right? But let's get into this one. So the premise is, and again, so convoluted. They break it down into two big sections. One is the big lie section, and the other is like, I don't know what the other book was. Hillary's America, I think. Another book about like racism. And so it's the big lie is segment number one, why the Democrats are like the Nazis. And segment number two is why the Democrats are like, they like slavery. And they're the actual racists. These were the two segments of the movie. It starts out with Hitler and what is it, Eva Braun was his girlfriend at the time or whatever. And they kill themselves in the bunker. And then they're buried. And then it's like, America, imagine the world without her. And then it cuts to Dinesh D'Souza as a young boy in India. And he's like, why do nations die? Why do nations live? And the whole movie, by the way, is just him like looking very contemplative, very serious, walking around through New York City. So obnoxious, just like head down, head up, very serious expression to various interviews. He's in New York, he's in Germany, he's all over the place. And so the first main exposition is about the big lie. And it's so funny to me, it's fascinating because you're like an hour into the movie and it's just like a documentary about Nazism. And you're like, this doesn't answer the question of the movie, Death of a Nation, or the proposition of the movie. I'm sitting there, and you just kind of get into it. But then after like 45 minutes, you're like, okay, why are they still talking about Hitler? Why are we still watching cutouts of like Nazi Germany from the night? Like, why are we watching this? I forgot why I even came here. And I think a lot of people just kind of like wake up in the middle of it, like, wait, what are we doing here? How do we get here? And the premise of the first part is to say the Democrats are like the Nazis. Republicans aren't the Nazis. The Democrats are like the Nazis. And in the first place, my first observation is, why do we live in the shadow of Adolf Hitler still? Why? Why is it 75 years after the fact, does all of our discourse orbit around this character in Germany? Why? And to me, like, I know why. I think a lot of you know why. But if an alien came down to planet Earth and witnessed our political debates, I mean, we like taught him like what's going on. We taught him English, and so he's integrated. But he was still very foreign. I think he would be very confused as to why so much of the discourse is surrounding around this political figure from the 1940s in Germany. This would be such a like arbitrary and weird thing if you were like born yesterday. But we all kind of take it for granted that all politics is in the long shadow cast by Adolf Hitler. And I think it's important then to, kind of funny. We talk about this a lot on the show. It's so important then to analyze, well, who really was this figure? What really happened? Don't you think if so much of our discourse is predicated on the axiom that Adolf Hitler is the ultimate evil and what he represented is inarguably evil, don't you think it's important to get all the details right? Don't you think it's important that we get all the facts, all the documents together, and we really have the correct picture of who this figure is? If he is so consequential, mythologically speaking, for the conversation, it's important we get the details right. But in some countries, it's illegal to ask the questions. That gives you your first clue. And so I'm thinking, history really needs a Hitler, because it's always reduced to not an argument about first principles, not an argument about policies, not an argument about even political theory or anything like that. It always comes back to, well, who's like the bad guy? Who's like the bad man, the bad thing that is inarguable, that is axiomatic? And it seems like that's the only thing that's axiomatic. The only first principle is Hitler is bad, that's it. Nazism is bad, that's it. Anyone that resembles that as a consequence, by extension, is bad. And to me, that's simply not sufficient for political analysis. The entire movie functions on analogy instead of logic, instead of analysis or anything like that. The entire film is analogy. Who is like the bad people? Who is like the bad thing? Who will bear responsibility? Who carries the legacy and is the inheritor of history? That's what's consequential. Because we're living in a time where we have these immeasurably high and modern and progressive standards for morality that only came about in like the last 20 years. Tolerance, pluralism, feminism, these kinds of things. And really, so then the question of our time becomes, well, which side, which group of people, which faction then inherits responsibility for history? Because history is a very bloody thing. It's a very ugly thing. And by all of our modern and very unique standards, what was horrible and immoral. So then the question becomes, and that's where you get this, who is most likened, and then who bears responsibility for the past ills that have gotten us to where we are? We're all good people. We all hold the right opinions. We're all liberals in different colors. But the reasons that we're not living in utopia is because people back then were bad. And so who traces their antecedents to the bad people? Who then is responsible for our present misery? Now that's the wrong perspective, because of course man has fallen, people are evil, they were just as bad then as they are now. And so it's not a question of, well, they're like the Nazis or they're like the racists. Anybody who thinks about it for more than a minute knows that those were not uniquely horrible things. All of history is horrible. All the time. It's only a gradient. It's only trade-offs. More or less bad. There were horrible things that happened in America. Horrible things that happened in France and Russia. All over the place. Right? And so to say, well, this group is like that. We never did anything wrong ever. We played by the rules forever. It's just bullshit. But so, the first segment, Nazism. They're trying to convince you the Democrats are like the Nazis and the fascists. And this is ridiculous. And you don't really even have to think about it for too long to realize why it is just such an absurd kind of thing. Nobody believes this. You could make every argument, it sounds like the Democrats, they want to regulate things, they're socialists. Nobody believes this. Nobody believes this. Because the two are so... The only similarities are cosmetic. Deep down, we know that the Democrats do not want a nation of straight, white men and traditional families in uniforms saluting the national flag. Does this sound like the Democrats to you? No, it's absurd. And the only similarities you can draw are cosmetic. For example, they say, Antifa wears a uniform and they use violence. Therefore, they're fascists. That's the argument they make. They add on some scholar to come and tell them this. Well, they've got a uniform and they use violence, so those are indicators of fascism. Really? Well, the military has uniforms. They use violence. Now, granted, they're using violence against the enemies of America or the enemies of Israel. And the uniform is something to respect, sure. But that alone is not sufficient, right? And it's funny, too, because Dinesh D'Souza says, well, they call Trump fascist because he's a nationalist. And they define fascism as nationalism and socialism. He says, but those two things are not sufficient to make a fascist. But yet, he then makes the argument that having a uniform and using violence is sufficient to define fascism. Really? The police use violence and wear a uniform. The Boy Scouts wear a uniform, and if they are hunting, they're committing violence. I mean, really? That's the standard? They're called the anti-fascists. They march with people who are communists, anarchists, all the rest. Their goal is to use violence to bring about the end of the state. That's not fascism. Fascism worships the state. Come on, really? They then go on to say that this was the best part, I think. They say, the Democrats will draw a similarity between the Republicans and the Nazis because the Nazis disliked homosexuals. And then they say that, when Hitler was prosecuting all the homosexuals, even though he's prosecuting them and it was illegal, he privately wrote that he didn't mind that some of his advisors and generals were gay because, they were good soldiers. Case closed. The Nazis were pro-pos, the Nazis were pro-gay, sure, right? I mean, you have to have a really warped mentality. You really have to suspend disbelief to buy that kind of stuff. Now, I will say, there are some things in there that are correct. They compare the Nazis to progressives in America. Now, the Nazis were progressives, not in the same way, but they were progressives. National Socialism is a progressive, a utopian, a materialist, and a revolutionary ideology. All of these things the American progressives have in common: materialist, revolutionary, progressive, and utopian. Now, in that way, you have to understand these things more in an historical context as opposed to an ideological context. National Socialism can be described in the same historical context as liberal progressivism or egalitarian progressivism or something like that. But again, the content is very different. The content is very different. Because, of course, although Nazism is revolutionary, progressive, utopian, and materialist, what are they progressing towards? What does the revolution hope to achieve? It's not the same thing as what the American progressives wanted. The American progressives, or the Bolshevik progressive utopian revolutionaries, wanted egalitarianism. They wanted a stateless society. They wanted to change human nature. Well, the Nazis, they did not want a stateless society. The National Socialists did not want an egalitarian society. They believed in hierarchy. They believed to some extent in tradition, very, very loosely. It was an archaeo-futuristic kind of thing where they took symbols, emblems from the past and used them for their own ideology. And so in that way, they can both be described as modernist and as ideologies and progressive. And you could say they're similar, but you can't say that they're like the same, because it's very different virtues that they're holding up, very different goals, and the content of the ideology is very different. So it's absurd. Everybody knows this. And anyway, it's not an argument. Well, the Democrats are like the Nazis. The Democrats were like the 90s back then. So what? So what? There's these cosmetic differences. They were like the Nazis. Who cares? Why does that matter? Tell me why the Democrats are wrong. Tell me the Democrats are doing horrible things to our country that don't work. Tell us that. Don't tell us they're like these other bad guys. I don't care. We're all sitting here in a movie theater. America is being plundered by multinational corporations. We're being invaded from our southern border. We've got a crime epidemic on the part of one particular minority group. And we're here in the movie theater watching a historical documentary about 1930s Germany. Really? Who cares? Who cares? Oh, well, in this particular scene, we look at the Nazi general and they passed around the one-drop policy of the Dixiecrats. What the fuck are you talking about? I don't care. I look at people in Appalachia where their town has been hollowed out because everyone's killing themselves, or they're on opioids and their jobs have been shipped overseas. Why are we in this, it's in the sepia filter and it's in the 1930s. Who cares? So that's the Nazi portion, and totally ridiculous because conservatism, the right, is inherently authoritarian, is inherently traditional, is inherently hierarchical, is inherently realist, and therefore anti-egalitarian. So it's just... And that's why nobody believes it. People intuitively understand that. But that's why to try and make the argument like, oh no, you're the Nazis, is ridiculous. It's just not true. And anyway, here's what blows my mind. We're in the 1930s for some reason in Europe. While we're there, why don't we just go a little bit east to the Soviet Union? Didn't anybody think of that? Why do we have to make it about we're going to try and bend over backwards and reinvent the wheel, trying to convince an audience that the people that love the white race are the same as the open borders crowd, when we could just go a little bit east, and we've got the Soviet Union, which was an internationalist, communist, they had anarchists. Why not? And they were mass murderers too, worse mass murderers. Why don't you go there? So easy. We have to do these gymnastics to say, no, Hitler would have actually voted for Barack Obama. Yeah, Hitler would have voted for Barack Obama and Kamala Harris and the Jewish Bernie Sanders. Yeah. Instead, why couldn't we just say they're like the Soviets? They're like Lenin, they're like Stalin, they're internationalists. Well, here's why. Because then you start to get a little too close to the truth. Because then, if we really peeled back the layers of, who's wrecking the country today? Who wrecked Russia? Why did the Nazis even come to power? Why would anybody even buy into that crazy stuff? Why would anybody buy into this crazy guy who was yelling? Was there some kind of revolutionary international communist force in Germany that had a 10-year civil war going on? Why did they call them reactionaries? Reaction to what? Reaction to what? Transnational banking class that overthrew Russia, killed all the monarchs, started inflicting horrible, horrible casualties on the Russian people. Who's doing that to America? I couldn't tell you. And then they go to George Soros in the end of the movie. George Soros and the European-style socialists. Oh, in the mainstream media and this Hollywood. Gee, why don't they talk about the Soviet Union? Why don't they talk about characters like Leon Trotsky, better known as Lev Bronstein? Oh, it's a tough one. Or Yakov Sverdlov, or any of these other ones. Rosa Luxemburg. I couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell you. I don't know. So, first part, retarded. And anyway, they make it out like, this is my favorite. Whenever they use the big lie thing, it's always like Hitler was this evil mastermind. Oh, he just hated everyone. He was just an evil genius. He wasn't just somebody who loved his country and got carried away. It wasn't that just there were excesses and it was an atheistic, progressive ideology. It wasn't that. He didn't think he was doing a good thing. No, he thought he was doing the wrong thing. He was dictating Mein Kampf, and he said, we're just gonna fucking lie to everybody. We're gonna lie, and they're gonna eat it up. They're so stupid. I hate them. If we're gonna concoct this story, and we'll just brainwash them, and they'll believe it. We're gonna make up this story about how bankers and a certain class ruined the country, and people just gobble it up because I give really good speeches, and we're just gonna come up with this lie. I just arbitrarily, have a problem. So stupid, so stupid. Think about it, And that's the scene in the movie. He's dictating Mein Kampf, and he's like, if you tell a big enough lie, and you keep telling it, they'll believe it. And do people believe this stuff? Really? Of course, the moralistic paradigm does not explain evil, because evil is of a very different nature than we think of it in this day and age. We think of it in terms of overt, explicit, malicious, but that's never how it manifests in human nature. It manifests as pride. That's the problem. And pride can come in a form that is deceptive. Pride, that's why many people sin for all kinds of reasons that we would call victimless crimes. So that's kind of an aside, but that's why fundamentally we will never understand. The modern or average person will never understand how anyone could be a racist or a Nazi or a communist or, whatever they think is bad, is because, they don't think they're doing the wrong thing. They don't seek to do it. Well, some crazy people do, but for the most part, the people that are committed are the people that they believe they're doing the right thing. And Hitler did. He didn't say, I'm just going to lie to everybody. The big lie he was talking about was the lies of the press and the lies of the media and the book burnings too. They make it out like, they were burning Homer. They were burning the classics. They were making it so that people were illiterate. That's not true at all. The Nazis were among the most sophisticated governments in human history. That's why we brought all their scientists to America in Project Paperclip to build our rocket ships. So it's not like, they were anti-education. The books they were burning were books that were written by Jewish psychologists about transsexuals and the sexual revolution and all this degenerative kind of stuff. So they're throwing books in the fire. Well, it wasn't random books. They weren't burning. Let's just take all the first books we can find. Let's take the whole library, throw in the fire. Who needs books? Well, obviously that's not true, because they were building rockets, tanks, ships more sophisticated than ours. So they weren't just picking any book off the shelves. It was the books that were telling people gender doesn't exist. Sexuality is whatever you want it to be. The family is just a construct. Those were the books they were burning. I don't know. Do you have a problem with burning those books? I think that's propaganda that should be censored to some extent or shut down. But it's just so much and people just stop and think. But that's why they need this. That's why you can't ask questions, because you start asking those questions. That's just common sense. I'm not a National Socialist, by the way. I think those were not great people. They were bad people. They were immoral. They were godless, and ultimately they failed. The Catholic Church is against them. I'm Catholic. But that said, the reason that they're so defensive and protective about the mythology of what happened in World War II is because, and this movie's a demonstration of it, their entire first principle of neoliberalism is built on that mythology. You start asking questions, and then, why is it wrong that we have a nation that's for white people? Well, when you can't resort to the Nazi argument, what do you have? You have nothing. That's why they need it. So that was the first segment, kind of bogus. The second segment was about racism. And it was, Democrats are the real racists, the movie. And this was just kind of ridiculous again. Because he tries to make it out like Democrats are this continuous strain. They're the same. From Jackson all the way through to Barack Obama, same, no changes. Which, again, think about it for 5 seconds. Andrew Jackson, what did he do to the Native Americans? He founded the Democratic Party. Do you think modern Democrats are okay with that? Like, obviously. Obviously not. What did the Democrats champion in the history books? The Democrats championed the historical theory that we genocided the Native Americans, that our land is stolen land. Did Andrew Jackson think that? I mean, come on, think about it. The Democrats back then said, black people should be in slavery. That's the Democrats in the 1840s and 50s. Does Barack Obama think that? It's institutional. It's like indirect. They're going around. Fuck you. No, they're not. That's dumb. That's so dumb. Nobody believes that. And anyway, the racists. Whose side are they on these days? Do you think there are a lot of racists who voted for Barack Obama? Oh, yeah. No, only the really smart ones. Only the evil masterminds who are like, I'm going to play the evil racist first, the evil genius, 250 IQ racist. Well, the easy thing for me to do would be to vote for the Republican Party because they'll keep non-white races out of the country. The easy thing to do would be to vote for the white man and to maintain white Christian society. But the real thing that would work, what if we constructed a welfare scheme where we would give white taxpayer money to black people in the form of welfare? And then they won't truly be free. They'll just be living off of welfare and won't really be pursuing happiness the way the founders intended it. Yes. They'll have a fertility rate higher than the white race, and so will the Mexicans. And they will be welfare queens. They will afford things that I cannot afford because they're on welfare and I work. But they won't truly be free as I am to go into debt voluntarily and work all my life and never retire. Yes, it is all coming together. And then I will vote for the black president to put this into... Yes, it's all coming together. The white supremacy reigns with the black president with his feet on the desk. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. No, that's so dumb. That's so dumb. Nobody believes that. You have to be a retard to actually believe that. And that's why it's a waste of time to make these arguments. How about a movie about why is it a bad thing that white people are getting tired of what's happening? Like, how about a movie about how white people are attacked all the time? How about a movie about how white people invented the modern world and that kind of thing? And we shouldn't even care about being called racists because that's just a dumb thing that they say. That's just a dumb, meaningless thing they say to disenfranchise white people. Why don't you make a movie about that? Isn't that a better angle? No, better convince the people of color who vote 90% for the Democrats, you're actually the racists. Yeah, that makes sense. What are the other contradictions? The Republicans at once say, if you call us racist, that's your only argument. What's the movie about? Racist, you're like Hitler, you're like a Nazi. Okay, so which is it then? So when the left says that, are we supposed to really, but are we really like the Nazi? What else? Immigration. So white supremacists support the party of open borders. They bring on Richard Spencer. And they're like, well, Richard Spencer's a progressive Democrat. Really? Why did he vote for Donald Trump? Do you think he voted for open borders? If he is the textbook white supremacist, why would he be in favor of the party that wants to make the country not white and celebrate it? That's so dumb. That's so dumb. And what else? What else do we have here? Well, the last thing I will say about that argument is that racists do agree with restrictionist immigration. They would be stupid not to. Now, that doesn't mean that restrictionist immigration has no other merits other than racism. You shouldn't have to say this. But just because bad people agree with something or do something doesn't make it intrinsically bad. In the same way that a murderer breathes air. A murderer, he maybe likes to eat Big Macs. Does that mean that racists eat Big Mac. Murderers eat Big Mac. Does that mean that there is something intrinsically wrong with Big Mac? No, of course not. In the same way that perhaps racists support restrictionist immigration because it's bringing in non-white people into the country, does that make it intrinsically wrong? Does that mean there are no other good reasons for it? No, of course not. They think it's good for the wrong reasons, but that doesn't mean there are not good reasons for it. For example, bringing in legal immigrants creates more competition for a smaller amount of American jobs. Bringing in more immigrants makes the country have less order, less stability. This is factual. This is empirical. Bringing in more people makes it harder to assimilate the ones here. I mean, you could pile them on, from civic to ethnic nationalist, arguments against it that do not involve blind prejudice, arbitrary hatred for other races. Ridiculous. The last thing I'll say about, which is fascinating, about the second segment of the movie, is that he focuses on not even the racial aspect. Blows my mind, because that would be absurd. So he doesn't even focus on the racial element so much. He focuses on how slavery is actually a form of theft. How slavery was actually, whatever, it was racist. But the cardinal sin of slavery, says Dinesh D'Souza, is that it violated the free market. This is always, and of course, why? How could it not? Always go back to that. He says, well, the slavers, the plantation owners, were stealing the fruits of slaves' labor in the same way that Democrats want to steal the fruits of your labor through high taxes and through whatever. And in this way, Evola is totally vindicated. He said capitalists and communists are basically two sides of the same coin. They both regard humanity and judge it in terms of dollars and employment and things. And he says, if you're gauging humanity in that way, you're not even close to what is important. And that's effectively what is put on display in the movie. It's about capitalism. It's about the free market. The Democrats are about theft. The Democrats are about stealing. It's all just a racket. It's all just about stealing. No, wrong, dumb. The Democrats don't simply want to steal. They have an agenda. I don't understand. And once they say they're National Socialists, they have a progressive ideology. They're the do-gooders. But at the same time, they're just common crooks. They're just common thieves who have just been keeping this racket going for 200... What? Think about it. But that's the problem. People don't think about it. They sit there in a reclined position and they watch the moving pictures on the screen. Oh, yeah, see, it makes sense to me. Oh, there it is. The Nazis liked big government. They're just like the Democrats, But you got to think about it. So those were the two major arguments put forward in the movie. They're both bogus, and they're both arguing on the basis of the left's paradigm. Why make an argument that conforms to their worldview? Like, you're starting the argument from the axiom that the worst thing you can be is a Nazi. You're starting the argument from the axiom that the worst thing you can be is a racist. And we know that's wrong. The worst thing you could be is an anarchist. The worst thing that you can be is a communist, somebody who wants to subvert and destroy the country. The worst thing you could be is somebody who wants to invade the nation and leech off of the public, Something like that. But he takes the left's axioms and argues from like a right-wing perspective. It doesn't work. So those are the arguments. Beyond that, it's just a very silly, goofy movie. There's like 2 songs in it. He breaks in the middle for his wife to sing a song about America. He's like, my wife is from Venezuela. She doesn't want to see it become like Venezuela. And then his wife sings a song. We don't want to see your wife, Dinesh D'Souza. Not like there's anything wrong with your wife or anything, but it doesn't fit in the movie. I don't do America First and then in the middle of every show just have like a cat boy break in and, break in his song and dance. Because, that's my friend or something. And then so she breaks in with the song, and it was just so over the top. It's like the Lincoln Monument, troops saluting the flag, the wheat fields of the plains. Then there was another song in the end. I think they sang what? They sang the Battle Hymn of the Republic, and it was this black choir, this obnoxious black choir. And so conservatives could feel good about themselves. At the end, they could pat themselves on the back and say, good for these people. We're so good. We like them and everything. We like them, and we're not the racists. They are. We're trying to liberate them. And again, it's like nobody cares about the white man. Why is the whole movie convincing white people, don't stand up for your interests? You should stand up for other people's interests. What pathologically altruistic, right? It's like, never mind that white people are just getting like shit on down their throats and their communities are being destroyed. It's like a white thing. How much pandering is done for blacks and Hispanics? It's white people that are under siege. Don't make a movie about that. Make a movie about how we can actually help everyone else. Make a movie about how we can actually prove to these people that we like them. We like you. You hate us. We like you so much. Why? Why do that? This kind of thinking has to end. This kind of thinking has to stop. Well, it's not going to change in one movie, but these people need to be challenged on these presuppositions. I stopped caring if I could convince liberals that I was not a racist, because that doesn't matter. I mean, that's dumb stuff that they say, and that has no impact on my life. Donald Trump did the same thing. Did he run his election being very careful not to be accused of being a racist? No, of course not. He ran his election saying, how can I serve my constituents? How can I make the nation great? That's what we have to worry about. And who are these people, these Democrats? They want open borders. Nobody wants to talk about that. They think it's fine that America becomes like Mexico. You don't want to make a movie about that, Dinesh? We're going to make it about how the Democrats want to steal your money? What? Oh, unreal. So, not a good movie. Not a good movie at all. I can't say I'm disappointed, because my expectations were not high to begin with. But we've got to do better, folks. We can't keep thinking like this in terms of the market, in terms of not being called racist. Dude, fuck all that. It can't be like that. There are things that are more important than that. Like, the country is so bad. And when I say the country is bad, I don't mean like the economy is bad. I don't mean like, taxes are really high. I mean, quality of life in this country has gotten so bad that people are killing themselves. It's an epidemic. They're either shooting themselves in the head, or they're taking drugs to numb themselves from the pain so much that they die. So that's the state of America right now, is that the quality of life is such, because the family has been destroyed, because communities have been destroyed, because the nation has no identity and no soul and no heroes and no myths, that people are dying deaths of despair. They're killing themselves. We want to sit around talking about, but the Democrats they're socialists. The Democrats are not letting the free market operate. The Democrats actually want to keep the black man down by giving them welfare. Come on, really? How many of my friends are going to end up 22 years old, unemployed, $50,000 in debt, no job experience, no family support system, no fraternal support system, no community, no faith in God? They're on drugs, no family of their own. And you're going to tell them, no, but it's all great. It's all great, though, because you're free, Buster. You're free. The government is small. We're going to make the government small. You're a wage slave. You're going to work until you're 65, but you're going to work after you're 65, and there won't be any Social Security for you. But on the bright side, there is no government intervention. Hey, but the good news is government is letting homosexuals get married. Hey, good news, fella. You're working your finger to the bone in the cubicle for 60 years, and you will never become financially independent or secure, and not your children will have it worse than you. But good thing is, homosexuals are allowed to get married because government has no constitutional authority in the institution of marriage. So we got it pretty good in the U.S. Yeah, sing the song, wave the flag. Sorry, doesn't work. I'll take the strong hand of the state any day with families, communities, a national character over whatever the hell we have now, and it's supposed to be free. I pay taxes. The government doesn't really intrude on my life, but there's kind of a little bit more to life than that, I could go to the grocery store and, I could buy shampoo for $1. Look at all the different brands of shampoo, the glory of the free market. Okay. But also, I go on I go on Tinder and women are repulsive pigs and none of them want to have children. So, but hey, McDonald's, how many calories could you get for $1? Trade-offs. In Poland, they had 50 years of communism. They weren't even a country for hundreds of years. Okay? Big government, socialism, and all that. Okay? But now, in 2018, they've got a fascist government, basically, like an ultra-right-wing government, restrictionist immigration, regulations, fastest growing economy, one of them in the world. And not only that, but there are Christian churches everywhere. People are getting married. The women submit to the husbands. And they've got families. And they don't have people walking down the street in fucking drag makeup on a leash in the annual AIDS parade. They don't have any of that. They don't have any lewd media going on. Oh, but their government is so big. Yeah, good thing we live. Oh, thank God we live here. I'm really breathing a sigh of relief. Thank God I don't live in Poland where the government is too big for my tastes. The government, by my arbitrary metric, is too big, either in terms of spending or regulations or whatever. Really dodged a bullet. Thank God I live here where, there's gunshots if you go 20 minutes west or east after 9 o'clock. And there's prostitutes all up and down Mannheim Road. Really dodged a bullet. Thank God. Government not interfering in my life. What time is it? It's almost 2 a.m. We got to transition to the 2 a.m. music. I don't know. Am I wrong about that? Am I just some crazy, maybe I'm just some crazy Nazi, right? Nick is secretly a Nazi. Fuck you. It's no, number one, no, I'm not. Number two, anybody who's out there, because I'll be talking to people and they're like, oh, you're a hater. Oh, you're just like a white supremacist. You're just a whatever. It's like you are a puppet for corporations and banks and the government. Nothing that you could say, no word that comes out of your mouth could ever threaten people that are running child trafficking rings, okay? Oh, you're a Nazi, you're a white supremacist. Yeah, okay. You're complicit in a system that is built on child sacrifice. And you eat cum. Look, I'm wearing a Wu-Tang sweatshirt. I'm not a racist. How could I be a racist? I listen to rap music. I have blind prejudice against black people. Why do I spend how many shows talking about Kanye West? Give me a break. But there it is again. There's the white impulse, the altruistic. That's how you know I'm white, by the way. People say, nearly white Nick. You know I'm white because I have the same pathological altruistic urge to prove beyond proof that I'm not a blindly prejudiced person. So, there you have it. That's the review. I don't know what else there is to say about it. Got to see my buddy Richard Spencer on the big screen. Pretty cool. Because I know him. I was a little starstruck. I disavow him. I don't agree with everything he says. You have to say that. But that was pretty cool. It was funny because Richard Spencer is actually a smart person. So once it got to his interview, they had to rely so much on framing, on editing, to make it look like Dinesh got one over on him. Because it was so clear that he didn't. And actually, it got bogged down for like 5 minutes, where it was going for like an hour on like Dinesh is crushing it. He's just proving the Dems are the Nazis. And then it gets to Spencer. And once a thinking person who has read old books is on, then it stops being like this simplistic circle jerk, and it gets like kind of quiet because everyone's like, oh, wait a minute, this is not easily digestible. This is not black and white. I have to think about this, until they edit it and they contextualize it where it's like, oh, he said he likes Jackson. Proof, QED, he's a progressive, he's a Democrat, So that was pretty wacky. Pretty wacky. I texted him. I said, they're not really doing him any favors. They're saying Richard Spencer's a white supremacist, and that's dumb. Well, they're not really doing any favors when they send people like Dinesh D'Souza to interview Richard Spencer. I'll just say that much, It doesn't really fit. So, I thought there were a lot of other things I thought during the movie that I can't say. But, yeah, that's about it. Impossible to prove you're not biased. We are all biased, racial or otherwise. True. It's true. They say everyone's racist. Okay, so let's all move on then, right? They say everyone has these biases. Okay, so what then? Why are you trying to change it? Say it. No, I can't say it. It's a bad thought. I think bad thoughts. Everyone press hearts. Press them. Racism is dope. No, it is not. Wrong. Racism is bad. Hate is whack. So, there you have it. There's your movie review. I guess take your grandma to see it or whatever. Take your grandpa to see it. Take an old person to see it so they go out and vote, but don't believe any of that shit. Just think about it. Just ask questions. It's so many false premises that nobody could believe if you just show them on paper, this is what you're saying. Democrats are the real racists. Oh yeah, I believe that. Oh really? The ones that pick the black president, they're the racists. Yeah. Oh, okay. You're dumb. Oh, but they were the KKK like 1,000,000 years ago. Oh, so the Holy Roman Empire was the Roman Empire, right? Same name. Yeah. That's legit. Franklin Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt, same guy. They're both named Roosevelt. Oh yeah. Ronald Reagan and his kid, same person, even though the one's on MSNBC now. Yeah. Same guy. Pat Buchanan and James Buchanan. Yeah, same. They have the same name. Same thing. You could go back. What other examples of this are there? Like with companies. Well, what's an example of a company that they did something one way back then and does something different now? Many such cases. So, yeah, I think that's everything. It's just a missed opportunity. We're going to have all this money and all that. And we're going to waste it making the I'm not racist movie. Why do you care? Your race is dying. Why do you care? And even if we were, so what? Our race is dying. Everyone's dying. Everyone's killing themselves. The country is going to hell. And you want to sit around, oh, well, do you have an irrational hatred of these people? Or you're biased towards these people? I would say yes, just if we could move on. Because that's the impediment. The immigration debate. Well, I think Nick Fuentes is very racist. His immigration policies are racist, blah, blah, blah. Okay, sure, they're racist. Can we now talk about how the people that are coming here are fucking wrecking everything? Okay, sure, it's racist. Fine. Now can we talk about the fact that everyone speaks Spanish now? That's racist. Yeah, well, I don't want to live in a country that speaks Spanish. That make me a racist? Well, so be it. That's how it has to kind of be. It's just the so what. That's the Nazis did that. So what? So they also ate hamburgers or whatever. They also used a fork and a knife when they ate dinner, and they went to bed at night. Enough. Yep, it's a shame. I should make more money for this. I should be on Fox News. You could tell I've got the brain for it. I've got the talent, charismatic, the personality, the eloquence. Okay, but they'll never hire someone like me because it's actually true. You've got people on television that are like, "Whoa, I'm challenging the system." People like fucking Jon Stewart. I'm really challenging the system. Oh, really? On cable television? On network television? Yeah, Oh, Jon Stewart's going to get on TV and say something that's going to challenge the status quo. Yeah, Jewish Jon Stewart is going to get on fucking the Colbert on CBS Late Show, and he's going to really... They cut him off because he was about to say something that would just shake the foundations of the system. No, I don't think that's quite it. It's people like me. Too honest, too frank, too right, too dangerous. Actually dangerous. Because if I got on television, then people would be like, what? But they're watching... Charlie Kirk talk about how you need to be a good cattle, be a good goyim, and pay your taxes and go to work. And man, look, it's kind of interesting because hey, I'm not at my desk, so I could do this. Is it here? Yeah, here. Because I'm so smart. Let me pull it up. Just give me a moment here. Okay. Page 73 of Who Are We? There's a study on how people have pride in their work. And what we find is that in Anglo-Protestant culture, we have, as you can see in this graphical display, Americans, because they have an Anglo-Protestant culture, they descend from the English, like the English, have pride in their work, disproportionately. 87% respond that they have a great deal of pride in their work, compared to 15% for France, 20% for East Germany, 30% for Italy, 48% for Spain, 83% for Great Britain. Now, let's think about that for a moment. It's very important in our culture. That's why we love capitalism, because we have pride in our work. We think that work is a good thing, because Protestantism tells us that hard work is a good thing. Well, is it like a virtue that people should be working until they're 65? Is it like a virtue that people are going to work for 8 hours in unnatural habitats, doing these like menial tasks? Why do we fetishize that so much? Pick yourselves up by the bootstraps. It's hard work. That's the best thing we could aspire to. Getting a job and going to work. And we love seeing the unemployment rate go down and that kind of thing. Let's suspend our knee-jerk reaction for a moment and think about that. Is there more to life than work? Should we strive not for people having lots of stuff and working all the time, but perhaps that people should have a quality of life and have it such that work is a part of life? There's not so much a separation, but work is simply one component out of many, and not, work, all the time, every day. We got to get more and more stuff and more stuff. How about an element of contentedness? How about an element of, that kind of thing? But we've got this breakneck pace of international capitalism where the rhythm is so dramatic And in the Charlie Kirks of the world think it should only go faster. It's only a good thing. Go to college. You can work. No, don't get me wrong. Work is good. Work builds character. I work hard, but they make it out like, well, that's well, how we define our ideology even. No, don't think so. And obviously, this is not the norm. This is not the norm. Not even in Europe. And that's why we have a robust economy, and that's, great and everything, but I don't know. I know a lot of people work hard, and are they having a great time? It would be one thing if you're working really hard and you get to come home and there's a meatloaf in the oven, and you come home and the kiddies run up to you, and Junior's got the baseball cap on, and he's, "Hey, Dad, you want to go play catch after we eat dinner?" And he's not in a dress. They were, "Hi, Dad, hi, good to see you. Oh, good, hi." And wife comes up, "Hey, babe, dinner's in the oven. It'll be ready in a little bit." And "Oh, thanks." You put your hat on the thing, take your coat off, kick your feet up on the big chair, wait for dinner, and then you say a little prayer, praise the Lord. You have a fine meal that's not packed full of estrogen and chemicals. It's good, it's nutritious. "Hey, Junior, how's school?" "Great, Dad. We beat up a communist. We beat up some kids from the other neighborhood. They were in the wrong neighborhood, and we beat the shit out of them." "Oh, great, Junior. And how about you, darling? How about you, my angel? How did you do at home?" She's not in school. "How did you do at home?" "Oh, great. Mommy showed me how to, garden or something." Well, that's really something. And they have a fabulous dinner. "And how about you, honey? How was your day?" "Oh, it was great. I played bridge with the neighbors. I took what would be her name? Sarah, I don't know. I haven't given too much thought to having a girl. I want to have a male heir, but, let's just call her, like, I don't know, Cassandra. Who knows? Well, I took Cassandra out and we picked out flowers or something. And then you get to go and watch a little television, watch the old, watch a variety show, wholesome entertainment. It's not like naked homosexuals having sex. It's like a good actual show, something wholesome. It's like a guy juggling. Wow, isn't that great? It's a rock and roll band, It's a guy spinning plates. Whoa, isn't that cool? And then you get to go to bed, wake up the next day, and hey, then on Sunday, go to church. Praise the Lord. Get to see everybody. Saturday, it's a barbecue. "Hey, Bob, why don't you come on over? We're grilling up burgers. Sun's shining, white picket fence. There's no gangbangers. There's no thugs. There's no thugs roaming the streets, gunning people down. There's no thieves taking stuff. And there's no hoodlums, And, Saturday's the barbecue. You get to take the kids out to the show. It's hey, let's go to the show. It costs you a nickel. You go see a picture, and it's in black and white. The dialogue's really good. Maybe then you could have hard work. Maybe then you could revolve society around working. But not now. Because now it's like you go to work, and then you come home to like a shoebox apartment, and there's just never any quiet. There's always the noise of the machine, whether it's immigrants yelling or it's truck horns or, gunshots or ambulance sirens. So you go home to your little shoebox apartment and it smells, and there's no women and there's no kids, and you open the fridge and eat like Chinese takeout from the other day. It's, probably lacks health standards. You toss and turn trying to sleep, thinking about how you're going to make ends meet. Tossing and turning, thinking about, if you want to be a girl, all this, all these phytoestrogens I've been eating. I'm starting to think, what do I look like in a dress? Or tossing and turning, thinking about that girl that you met and you really liked her, but then you found out that she had she got double teamed at a party last week. Or your girlfriend, you found out that she was going out with, she slept with Chad one time. And then you're 35 and then you're 40 and there's no end in sight. And your parents are in Florida, living it up on a boat. And you're in hell. You have nothing. And, all your friends just like watch TV. Then when you revolve life around work, then it's less good. Then that's a little bit tougher. A little bit harder to live like that, I think, than with all the rest. So that's the Dinesh D'Souza movie. On that note, real Nibba hours, am I right? It's 2 a.m. I'm gonna go have some Greek. Gonna go have some spinach pie and some potatoes and some shish kebab. And then who knows? Maybe I'll be back for another stream. I don't know. Maybe I'll do more content this week. You'll have to wait and see. But that's the movie. Don't see it, please. Please. Don't see it. Not worth it. You watch the trailer, you know everything about it. But that's the stream. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for the hearts. Check me out on America First on Monday. I might be doing a stream tomorrow or at some point. Who knows? But you guys asked for this. You also asked for a Thought Patrol. Maybe I'll get that going. Who knows? But if that's not the case, you could just check us out on America First, 7 p.m. on Monday. We got a pretty big guest coming on Tuesday. Should I reveal? Excuse me, that was a little hiccup. I'll reveal later. But that's the stream. I made myself sad. Why do I do that? I made myself miserable. Very tough, but we're all going to make it. We're all going to make it. It's tough because you think all that we've lost, we're going to get it back. And if we don't, we'll die trying. And that's a good thing, too. So that's the stream. Catch you on the flip. Stay white-pilled, though. Remember who the real racists are. Whoops. All right.